There's something really powerful when your audience can touch and feel and hold something that belongs to your company. I know recently we've started a merch store, not even as a huge revenue builder, but just so our audience has something to physically connect with. And I think a lot of times in the digital world, we forget about the power of physical products. And today I'm talking with Julie Ball. She is the head honcho over at Sparkle Hustle Grow and Subscription Box Bootcamp. And she has been featured in so many places. I'm talking BuzzFeed, Forbes, Business Insider, USA Today, for her subscription box for female entrepreneurs. Now, we're going to be talking today about how you can start your own subscription box or how you can add this on as additional revenue for your already existing business. We're also going to talk about how you can utilize subscription boxes even if you don't want to start one. So, jam packed with information. I know you're going to absolutely love this episode. Let's jump right into it. Julie, I am so pumped to be chatting with you today. Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm so pumped to be here. Like I have told you before, I could just chat with you forever. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. You and I have been friends for a while now.
I
Like, when did
know.
we meet?
So I'm thinking, it was a Boss Mom retreat maybe where we met in
Yeah,
person, but we've known each other online for much longer than that. But
yeah. Definitely like,
I
go
do
ahead.
remember how proud I was when you were on the panel at the Boss Mom retreat and you were so inspirational. And I was like, that's my girl.
Yeah, I think it's probably been like 2017-ish,
I think
probably, since
so.
we've actually met and know each other. So crazy. So,
Hmm.
we're going to be talking all things subscription boxes today. And there are so many people that I think that a subscription box could be an additional form of revenue, a main source of revenue. I literally was talking to a local entrepreneur who owns a spa the other day. And over COVID, she started sending out these spa kits. And now she's wanting to start a subscription box with it. So there's so many people that I meet along, my entrepreneurial journey that ask me about this. And I'm like, I want a go to episode for those people to say, hey, if you want to start a subscription box, here is how you do it. Also, for anybody who's like, I don't know if I want to do that, we'll talk about who it would be a good fit for. But also, we can chat about other ways that you can actually utilize subscription boxes, even if you don't want to start one. So it's going to be
Right.
so good. I want to start with your story, though. Julie, how in the world did you get into all of this? How did you start Sparkle Hustle Grow?
Okay, so long story short, I was a corporate ladder climber in the music industry. When I got pregnant with McKenna in 2011, I left my corporate career and started my first business. So this is not my first business. Sparkle Hustle Grow isn't. I previously ran a service-based business. It was a web marketing firm. At the time, we were living in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. I was pretty much working during naps, nights, and weekends, like a lot of mamas out there as you start maybe a side hustle for a additional source of income. And in 2016, we moved from the Charlotte, North Carolina area to Asheville, which is in the mountains of Western North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's beautiful here. And I was so excited about this move, but I was really, really lonely. I was behind the screens all the time because all my clients were, digital marketing clients. Moving to a new town, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't have a core group of friends yet, so I got lonely. And so one of the things that I knew that brought me joy was Happy Mail. We don't want bills all the time. So I started buying things. I know you can buy things on Amazon all the time, but I'm talking about subscription boxes here. So I subscribed to Stitch Fix and then I subscribed to Yogi Surprise. And I just remember that surprise and delight of when I opened up those boxes and I just felt good. And I didn't feel so lonely because there was this community of people who also were subscribers. So I thought to myself, maybe I'll dabble in this product-based business. I didn't have any experience with it, but I thought to myself, well, what if I get a box, a small box, and send it to female entrepreneurs? This is the audience I'm already serving with my web marketing firm. Well, maybe this would be a good side hustle or, another way to support them. And honestly, this is so backwards, Abby, but I was like, ooh, maybe if they subscribe to my box, maybe then I'll have an opportunity to build a website for them. I'm like, that is the most expensive lead magnet ever. Like, what was I thinking? So I just basically looked back at my receipts and I said, okay, what do I spend as a solopreneur, a woman business owner? What do I spend my money on? And it was books. I love to read. I love personal development books, love business books. I don't like fun books, but that's what I was spending my money on. Online courses. I'm sure you've had that before. You probably have a million online courses that you've signed up for, and office supplies. So those were like the core things that I was spending my money on. And so I went to Target and Staples and just started mocking up a box and started pre-seeding it out there on social media. Say, who would be interested in this? And I actually got some people that were interested, to my shock. And so I was like, I'll give it a try. And so I bought I like started building my business plan, created a landing page, all the things that you do at the beginning of a business. And I mocked up this box and launched it in October of 2016. And that first month, I sold almost 50 boxes, which was definitely like enough to make me realize, like, this might have legs. And so within 9 months, I was able to replace my full-time income of that web marketing firm. And that was just a huge eye opener of like, okay, I need to make a choice here. And so I stopped taking new clients and I finished out the contracts with that book of business that I had. And then I went all in with Sparkle Hustle Grow.
Wow, that's incredible. And you've been doing that ever since now. And I know that you've gone on to create another coaching business too that teaches other people how to start their own subscription boxes as well, right?
Right. So after a couple years, I had that scenario where people are like, "Can I pick your brain?" or, asking me certain questions, and I felt myself repeating the same answers over and over again, and so I decided to put it together in a course. And that's called Subscription Box Bootcamp. You could definitely start a subscription box by just Google searching and piecing it all together like I did, but it's way faster, way more fun, far less tears, and way more profitable when you have someone who's, gone a couple of steps ahead of you and can teach you. At this point, I was just looking at the numbers and we've shipped over 65,000 boxes, over $3 million dollars
Wow.
worth of subscription boxes. So take it from me. Like, you can learn from me. I am an open book and I have failed so many times. And I incorporate that as part of what I share because that's just the reality of entrepreneurship. Like, we're all going to have failures, but when you find the right coach, you can just move along with less failure and faster.
Wow. Okay. So this is so great. So I love the transition from, freelance work, which I find so many people that is how they
Mhm,
start out, right? Is actually the
mhm.
one-on-one services, which I think is great. But then you started serving a broader audience with the subscription box. You validated the idea before you started really going all in, which again, it's like all the steps that I'm like, okay, yep, this is why it was so
Yep.
successful. And then you've continued to scale it over the years. Let me ask you this. So, if somebody is considering starting a subscription box,
Mhm.
who do you think that it is good for, right? Like, is it time? If somebody's asking that question, is it the right time for me? I have this idea, or it's something that I want to do. Who is kind of the perfect fit? Who have you seen in your experience this work well for?
Sure. There's, I would say it's such a no brainer for any product based business, especially if your product is consumable. And just a quick example would be we put stationery in our boxes. And so the idea is you're probably going to use that stationery and run out. So next month we'll send you some more. And so that might look like thank you cards, or that might look like sticky notes, or maybe a journal. So we mix it up. So if you already have a product based business, that's a no brainer to have it on repeat, to send new stuff, or maybe even that's a way to have VIP customers that they're having that auto renew, making it super convenient for them, but you're getting your product in front of them. Another no brainer is a brick and mortar. As we've all experienced over the past couple years, so many of those brick and mortar shops were closed and they couldn't have the foot traffic that they so relied on, day after day after day. And so that inventory starts to sit there on their shelves and it becomes, a cash flow issue. You've got just stagnant inventory. So why wouldn't you, if you're a candle shop, start a candle of the month club? And that recurring revenue will, pay your mortgage or your lease. It's like this beautiful recurring revenue just humming along, giving your business stability and helping you project revenue in the future. And that's one of the things I love about it the most is I don't have to chase the sale every single time someone gets to my cart. It's, once they are a subscriber, our average subscriber sticks around for 7 months on average. And so
Wow.
that I don't have to chase them 7 extra times. I just have to show up, give them really good product and give them a good experience, and they're going to stick around.
That's really incredible because I think that, I talk to a lot of online business owners that are completely digital in everything that they do. And
Mhm.
there is often like a launch model or even, special times. And I'm sure that you have times in your business where you have bigger sales and,
Mhm.
maybe Black Friday or Christmas time, I think you said in the past is a big time for you. But like the idea of having something that's monthly and reoccurring and the ability to, really make projections off of that,
Mhm.
I'm assuming is a lot easier when you have something that is just so steady. So I
Yes.
absolutely love this. And I think, like you said, for somebody, if you are a brick and mortar business or you are a product based business listening to this, like the time is yes. Like
Yeah.
it is now,
For
right?
sure. Well, and think about too, say you're a coach and maybe you already have a membership and that you know that recurring model. What's stopping you from adding a VIP level where they're going to get swag from you every month? Maybe that's a mug or maybe that's, a tech gadget to help them succeed more with what you're coaching them on. So it's an opportunity too for all of those in the digital space to tangibly give your customers something that they can hold, they can put on their desk, or they can put in their home, that's going to be a constant reminder of how awesome you are and what value you bring to their life.
I think sometimes we forget about like in the online space about the power of physical products. Like we don't have a subscription model, although now I'm like, ooh, this is such a cool idea. But
Yes.
we added a merch store this last year. And
Mhm.
our merch store, just because of the way we're doing it, isn't incredibly like it doesn't have huge profit margins on it,
Sure.
but there's something really powerful about like people will wear their shirt and they'll post it on Instagram. And there's something that happens that when someone can like touch and feel your brand, I think it makes such a huge difference. So I love the idea of incorporating physical products into digital businesses. Have a
Mhm.
lot of the people who have gone through your subscription box bootcamp done kind of that model, and what difference has it made for them in the way that they connect with their clients?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because what I was explaining just now was if you're already a coach and you have a digital program, you could add a physical product. But what I'm seeing now too is in the subscription box world is sending a box is good, but sometimes it's not enough. You add those experiential factors to it and bring it into the digital space. Quick example, Sparkle Hustle Grow has an online community and we host it in Facebook. It's private and it's only for our paying subscribers. And we have this sort of guided experience in there where you get business training. You get a chance to connect and collaborate with other like minded female entrepreneurs. And so I can imagine that there's so many other boxes that could do the same. So, for example, one of my subscription box bootcamp students has a box called Mama Needs, and so each month there's a different theme, like Mama needs coffee or Mama needs a break or whatever. And so I can imagine all these moms have this common ground of that they get this box for a little mama self care. But imagine the conversations that they can have supporting each other in that journey, and think about another boot camper of mine has a box for widows. And that's such a vulnerable state. Can you imagine if you didn't have to go through that alone? And so a lot of the subscription boxes now are offering some sort of experiential factor in the digital space, whether that's a community or whether that's something as simple as like a monthly playlist of great songs, that go with the theme. So there's so many different ways that you could do it.
So good. And I think that there's something really powerful. And I think more brands are starting to pick up on the power of like digital, physical, and just that power of community, whether that's in person
Mhm.
or virtual. And like you said, with your subscription box, it's like to not only have the physical products that are coming in the mail, but the community for people to connect with one another on like you already know you have an audience that's connecting on something
Yes.
together. So I can imagine, if it's mama needs a break, then a community that could happen around like just moms and the shared
Right.
experiences and the shared struggles. And then
Yeah.
what can that turn into? Because once you build an audience there, then obviously there could be other, additional maybe virtual services, courses or coaching. Or so I do think that this being just an arm to really any type, the more we talk, I'm like, oh, this could really be great for a lot of different kinds of businesses. So,
Mhm.
okay, so let's do this. If somebody is listening and is like, okay, Abby, Julie, you guys have convinced me. I think I want to do this. What would be the steps? Like, you can just lay it all out and we can
Yep.
go one at a time if you want. I would love to hear what it really takes because honestly, it seems a little overwhelming. And side note, my kids and I actually started a little, we called it Panda Mail. We only did it for like a summer because I was starting another business and I was like, I can't have three businesses that I'm starting. But, the kids and I started this little, like, it was a monthly, like, fun, I wouldn't call it as much of a subscription box, but it was a little package that kids would get in the mail every single month. And it was like fun mail for kids. And
Aw.
it was incredible. I mean, within a month, we had like my kids were making substantial money and it was just like we went to one kid's business fair and these people stuck around and it was like I don't know, like you said, there's something for people to physically like touch and hold and the getting in the mail.
Mhm.
It was fairly easy to find people right away to participate in it. So, with that said, but already even in doing that, it was kind of a figure it out on my own. And I'm sure there's an easier way than what I did because it was not great what we did. So I would love to hear the actual steps that somebody should take if they're wanting to do this themselves.
Yeah, so I have 5 steps to pre-launch, and those are kind of the things that someone needs to be prepared to do before they actually launch. Now, within these 5 steps, there's lots of things to think about, but we're gonna keep it really simple here. And so that first step is to carve out your concept. It's to really figure out, like, who is your target audience? What pain point are you gonna solve? These are, like, very common questions for any business. One of the things I like to think about is you want to be a non-negotiable. Like, you can't just be a luxury item because someone's not going to stick around for a long time. So what is that pain point that you can solve that's going to have you can be a part of in that customer's life long term? So think about that, and that's that whole validation. You know what I mean? You're going to kind of throw it out there, talk to some people about it. That's the carve out your concept stage. So, the second stage, as you would expect, is to start nurturing and growing your email list. The fact is that for us, at least in the subscription box industry, and probably so many other online business industries, is like emails where you're going to convert. If Instagram's down for the day, you're kind of out of luck. And if Facebook, if we're being honest with ourselves, just doesn't convert like it used to. And so we push really hard with Subscription Box Bootcamp that you want to grow and nurture that email list. And one of the resistances that I see often is I'm not ready to share, I don't have my logo ready or whatever. So what? Like
Yeah.
I wanted to show people that this was going to be a physical product. So I went out and bought a small pink box, put it on my back deck because that's just where there was good lighting. And then I used Canva to drop in the words sparkle, hustle, grow. And I shared that as a post. Was it polished? Probably not, but it showed that it was a product and that I was up to something. And I would go then to Target and buy a handful of office supplies and I'd dump it out on the floor, take a picture and say, here's my Target haul. Which of these would you pick? Just to start getting them engaged in it and nurturing them to be primed to buy when you do launch. When you finally say, okay, this product is ready for sale, you don't want to hear crickets. But if you've taken them along the journey with you and you've asked them questions like product A or product B, this or that, which logo do you like better? Just different questions and sharing that behind the scenes. People are so interested in that and they've been a part of the journey with you. So that's the second step is to nurture and grow your email list.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So, in doing this, because I feel like people hear this a lot of times and it can be intimidating, like growing a list, especially in pre launch. If you're like, I don't have anything to sell you, like it feels backwards. Although I agree with you that
Yeah.
you should always build a list before you have a product. So, what are maybe one or two things that you've seen work really well for how to actually grow that email list starting from completely zero?
A giveaway.
Yeah.
100%. Like that's my easy answer. We like to use platforms like King Sumo or Kickoff Labs that have that viral capability built into them. So, for example, with King Sumo, I can say, okay, enter your email address for a chance to win a 3-month subscription when we launch. You get an extra entry if you follow us on Instagram. You get an extra entry if you watch my YouTube video where I, do a video introducing the concept. And so they earn all these extra entries to win by interacting. And that gets them following you in multiple places. That starts getting them involved in following your journey. And I always recommend kickstarting a giveaway with just a little bit of an ad spend. Even if you don't have to have this massive ad spend, but just to get that snowball effect rolling. And honestly, this is probably one bit of resistance that almost everybody has is they just won't share it. Like you need to share it, tell your friends, tell your family, and ask them to share because you're never going to get out beyond your own network if you don't tell them what to do. Like, so I'd say, Abby, will you enter this and share about it? Let your audience know we're doing this. I think they'd really love it. And just telling people and sharing your excitement. How can you say no to that? So I think a lot of people are just shy or they don't want to come off as salesy or sleazy, but it's an exciting time and you should be excited to share with your friends and family and ask them to do the same. But then again, that's where I say, jumpstart it with a little bit of ad spend to get outside of your network too.
That's so good. Giveaways work so well. I mean, we did our first one a few years back just over at the Virtual Savvy. We already had a list and everything, but we're like, oh, this will be fun. Let's do a giveaway. And I don't think we actually expected that it'd be such a huge list builder for
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
that we just do it every year. Like every
Yeah.
year in December, it's like, oh, we're going to do a December giveaway just because it just works well as like an end of the year list
Yeah.
boost for
And
us. So I
what
love that
even
answer.
what even works better is if you collaborate with someone else that you can get in front of their audience. So like I know in the past you and I have done that where I provided Sparkle Hustle Grow boxes and you had a giveaway. It's such a win-win because it gives you something to give away, a physical item, to give away to your audience. And then it got me in front of a new audience. And so if you're thinking about doing a giveaway, think about are there one or two other people or brands? Maybe that's a vendor of a product that you hope to include and see if they're willing to collaborate.
Such a good idea. Okay. Awesome. So, what would the next step be?
Okay, so we talked about carving out your concept. We talked about nurturing and growing your email list. This, again, the next step would be product development. So, if you are creating a physical product, you need to do a mock up, you need to do that prototype. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you are taking people along with the journey, you can easily get a plain box off of Amazon or even just go down to like the UPS store or something like that and mock up that box. It doesn't have to necessarily represent everything that's going to be in the first box or even anything. You just need to give people an idea of what to expect. And it starts to get your wheels turning too about like what you really want your product to look like. So you got to do some research, get out there, do a little shopping, some market research, buying some things and mock it up. The next step after that would be tech time. So as you know, with your running an online business, you have to have a solid platform to sell on. And so there's plenty of platforms that you can do online business, but you need to make sure that you carve out time to create your website and find a platform that supports that recurring billing. So you might be on a website or a cart engine, even that is great for selling one off items. But are they equipped to sell that auto renew where it's going to renew, every 30 days or however long your sales cycle is? And so since 2016, we've used CrateJoy. It is a specifically made for subscription box businesses, but there's also Subly, there's Shopify. And so there's all these different platforms that you could use. So you want to carve out some time to figure out what's going to be the right technology for you. I would say my bit of advice here is to keep it simple. Don't
Yeah.
offer 10 variations. Don't offer customization out the gate because that can get really complicated.
Okay. Such good advice. Yeah, we used Subly for my
Did
kids
you?
little, and I was able to set it up in like a day. Now, granted,
Nice.
I had a lot of experience with that kind of stuff, but still, it was literally one day I was like, look, I have a website. Here we go.
Yep.
Done.
There you go. So then the last step here in that pre-launch, not everybody does this, but I teach this and I use this. It's called a pre-sale. So what I looked at was I thought of my email list as my VIPs, like the ones that are the most emotionally attached to my story, to this product. And so my pre-sale was a special time frame where they got first dibs on the product when I launched it. And so that pre-sale was in advance of me offering it to the general public. And it was fantastic. I was able to have $1,500 in revenue in my pre-sale, and that helped fund that first month's box. And so it can be as simple as saying, we're only going to sell 100 boxes. And as a VIP on our email list, you get first dibs. When they're sold out, it's sold out. And so when you use that scarcity and you use that time sensitivity, it really helps from a marketing perspective, as long as it's genuine. Like for me, I wasn't going to sell more than 100 boxes. As I told you, I think I sold about 50 in that first month. But in order for me and my mindset to grasp, like, okay, what's going to happen in this first month, I had to set that boundary of like, okay, I'm going to shoot for 100. I'm not, if I hit 100, I'm going to stop, because I don't want the added stress of like, oh no, what am I going to do if this is getting out of hand? That would have been great had I got to 100, but I was super happy with hitting 50, because I really didn't know what I was getting into. Now that I know 6 years in what I know now, gosh, if I had only known then, right? But
Yeah.
that's why I coach. But I love that pre sale concept, because it's such a great feeling to not only have something exciting to offer those people that are most invested already, but also it helps you have some revenue to spend on those first month's products. Because it's when you have a product based business, there are some hard costs that are inevitable, like buying product, so, and packaging and
Yeah.
shipping.
Okay. So I want to break down some of the financial stuff just so people get a good picture, but I really like what you said about a pre-launch, and I think that it's a good tactic for any online business. It's like
Yeah.
start to build the list, have valuable content, do some kind of a pre-launch before you're officially like all in,
Yep.
created the thing in its entirety before you go and buy everything for your box, like, and spend
Yeah.
hundreds or thousands of dollars buying like I'm gonna have enough for 1,000 boxes. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
wait. Like a pre-launch is a good idea. Same thing with like a digital course. If you're gonna
Yeah.
be a course creator, don't spend 6 months on a course and then be like, now I'm going to try to sell it. Try to pre-sell it. And I don't know, like for online courses, I usually tell people that anywhere like 1% of your list around, it could be a little less, could be a little more, depends on the product, how engaged your list is,
Right. So
depends on
many
a lot of things.
variables.
But yeah, have you found that to be kind of true with people like launching, that around 1% is a good standard conversion for this type of business as well?
That's an interesting question, because there's so many variations and like or variables, how engaged you are, how targeted your email list is. What I find typically is 1% is a normal conversion rate for a website, right? So like if they get to the website, yes. But what we found just watching the metrics and with our own personal experience at launch, we've seen upwards of 5 to 10% of email lists turning into subscribers. And so what I tell people is, if you have an idea of how many you want to sell, how many boxes you want to sell at launch. So say you want to sell 100 boxes at launch, shoot for 10x that on your email list. So you're going to
Yeah.
shoot for 1,000 people, 1,000 targeted people that you're nurturing over time. Now, that's just at launch when there's that big excitement and that like champagne popping, cards open. Of course, that's all going to level out after that main launch. But if you play your cards right, yeah, you can get upwards of 5 to 10% of that email list to do that initial box subscription at launch.
So good.
It'll take time to figure out what it's going to even out to. But I'd say, like you said, 1% is a pretty normal conversion rate beyond that big launch. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, treat it like a true launch. Like, have your launch runway, have content planned out, have that like 3, 2, 1 countdown before you open the cart, 3 days out, 2 days out, and build that anticipation, because that's when you're going to be able to convert, at maybe 10% instead of 5% at
Mm.
launch. But then realistically, you're going to see those numbers level back out to about 1%.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good to know. I was just curious with like, so when I launched a digital, I'm thinking back now, I'm like peeling back
Yeah.
2016 Abby. I had built a list of 1,000 subscribers and then I
Mhm.
launched and I had 16 people buy. So I guess, but then it like leveled off after that. So I guess that
Right.
would have been 16%. But all that to say, I hear so many people who start like some kind of business that's at least sells digitally, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's a subscription box or coaching or courses or whatever, and they get really frustrated that they're like, oh my gosh, I launched this thing and only one person bought. And it's like, well, how big was your email list? About 100 people. We're like, well, that's actually really good.
Not
Like
bad.
that's,
Yeah.
like, and so I think looking at what planning out those numbers and going ahead and getting an idea of what your pre-launch goals would be huge.
Mhm.
Okay. Did we get to all 5 steps? Did we do number 5?
Yes. Yep. That was the
Okay,
last
that
one.
was number 5. Okay, so I want to talk through like kind of the finances, if that's
Okay.
okay, because I'm always
Mhm.
curious what kind of a profit we should expect. And I'm so used to digital businesses that a
Yeah.
physical product, I think if
So
you're used to
different.
digital products, it can be really scary. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to mess with that, right? So what kind of margins are we actually looking at when it comes to a subscription box? And obviously I know it varies on
Mhm.
what type of products you're putting into it, but like, is there a certain goal or standard someone should be shooting for?
Yes. I tell my students to shoot for a 30 to 50% profit margin. And how that happens is through the magic of wholesale buying. And I'm going to give you a quick example. Say you go to Target, you see a journal, it's $5 at Target. If you reach out to that brand directly and set up a wholesale account with them as a reseller, like that you're going to resell it to somebody else, the standard wholesale discount is 50%. So instead of buying that journal for $5 at Target and then putting it in the box, you're going to go direct to the manufacturer or the brand and buy it for about half of that. And that's how you can say then, oh, this has a retail value of 5, but you don't, you've only paid 250. And so when you start curating your products, essentially your box should be worth double that because you've likely paid that wholesale rate for all those products. Now, add on experiential factors and you can grow the value of that box unbelievably. Like when it comes to Sparkle Hustle Grow, we have a certain amount. We usually have 4 to 6 items in there. And that's valuable, yes, as physical product, but there's so much value in the training every month. And there's so much value in the community. And I think that's where a lot of boxes have to kind of step it up. Instead of just sending a box of stuff, people will go to Amazon and like price check it sometimes. And so you want to make sure that you're targeting the right people, you're getting that wholesale price so that you're actually making a profit on it. And then you want to add to the value by adding experiential factors.
So good. And I mean, I think that your box is such a great example of how to do that well with bringing in guest speakers. I mean, you're highlighting other people where it's a no brainer for these guests to come in and speak to your audience. It's literally only value add, value add, value add to them. And then it's
Yeah.
value add, value add. It's like, it's a win, win,
Win-win.
win for
Mhm.
you, for the person who's a guest speaker, for the people in your community. So I feel like if anybody's going to do a subscription box, putting in that partner factor is just like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. And that's how you can add, if you're a service based business owner and you add the product, like you've already got the digital side of it figured out. So this is just, sending a little bit of happy mail every single month. So I can see how it can work really in so many different business scenarios.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So I want to ask you, what has been your biggest challenge throughout growing a subscription box?
Ooh, I mean, like many other business owners, is acquisition. Once we get someone as a new customer, as I mentioned, they stick around for a while. So then it's much more profitable for when someone sticks around for a long time. I think one of my biggest challenges as of recently has been Facebook ads. The iOS changes last year really changed the game. Prior to that, I felt like we could kind of turn on the spigot and like grow our subscriber base. And if we needed a break, turn off the spigot. But it's not like that anymore. So, my biggest challenge right now is new customer acquisition, but figuring like cracking the code of like how to reach those people now, whether it's through other channels, whether it's through in person stuff, whether it's through collaborations. So, we're playing around a lot with that right now.
Yeah, there's so many, we talk about the 3 forms of traffic: paid, partner, organic. And
Mhm.
paid, I feel like, is just the one that's always the most up in the air, right? I mean, the
Now, yeah,
partner and the organic are the steadiest. Sometimes they can
right.
take long. Organic, I think, is like the most, like the strongest form. Like if you have
It's
a
the long
great,
game.
it's the long game though. Like it
Mhm.
takes, so it's like always do some organic so that
Yeah.
if the other stuff kind of falls through. But yeah, like if it's a blog or YouTube or whatever, like Pinterest or podcasting, like do your long game thing, even
Yeah.
though it might take a little time to ramp up. But then paid and partner, I feel like are just those two that, hey, you play your cards right, these can really be spigots, but they're also a little bit, especially the paid, a little bit more unpredictable. How have you
Yeah.
seen partnerships play a role? Like you mentioned that you've, like what we did, you said, hey, let me put a box in your giveaway. And that was a
Mhm.
huge collaboration. Is there anything else that you've done as far as, partners that has worked really well when it comes to subscription boxes in particular?
Yeah, it's getting in front of other people's audiences. So figure out where your ideal target audience hangs out. And so for me as a female entrepreneur, my audience is listening to podcasts. So guess what? I put a lot of time into being on other people's podcasts. And so think about that. If where's your ideal target audience hanging out? Is that Pinterest? Is that podcasts? Is that YouTube? Like there's so many channels, but you don't have to be on all of them. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You'll just burn out if you try. But for me with Sparkle Hustle Grow, being on other people's podcasts has been a big part of the partner strategy.
Awesome. Okay, let's end with this. I feel like I could keep like picking your brain about this forever, but I just want to know in general. Oh, were you going to say something else?
Yes, you
Yeah,
had
go.
talked about when we started. I was going to share a little bit of information about if you don't want to start a box, how you can get
Yes.
involved in it. Yes. And so I'll make it super quick and easy. If you want to get in front of other people's audiences, subscription boxes are a great way. As a subscription box owner, I'm always looking for new product. I'm always looking for the non competing, but like what's the word I'm looking for? That it's complementary, but not
Yeah.
competing products, services, apps, whatever. Like if we have the same audience, but we're not competing, there's an opportunity for you to pitch that box owner and say, hey, I'd love to get my product in your box. Be prepared to have a wholesale rate for them. If they come back to you and say, okay, I love your product, what's the cost? Be willing to negotiate on that, thinking about it as a marketing expense. But same thing, like you've been our guest expert before, right, Abby? And so you could, if we didn't know each other in advance, you could have come to me and pitched me and said, hey, my zone of genius is XYZ. If your audience would be interested in learning that, I would love to do a masterclass for you, or I'd love to be a guest expert. Would you be open to the conversation? And so think about what would be complementary to your audience. If you're an existing business owner, what boxes would it make sense for you to be in there? So, for example, if you coach mamas on how to get their baby to sleep, then you need to go pitch that mama needs box. So there's all these great partnerships that you could, even if you're not a physical product, you could still be highlighted or featured in a subscription box or in their community.
Such a great idea. Where would you start going about finding those subscription
Yeah.
boxes of
I
people
would
who
say,
have them?
asking around, asking your audience what boxes do they subscribe to so that you can immediately pitch those ones. But if you're kind of lost and you just are like, okay, I need to research all the boxes, go to cratejoy.com. Cratejoy.com is a marketplace for subscription box businesses. There's legit a box for anything. Like you own chickens, there's probably a chicken box. Like there's boxes for tea and coffee and, everything you can think of, I swear. So that would be a good place. And then you would want to do a little bit of research, look at their website, go to their Instagram or wherever their social media is, get to know them a little bit. And then you can do outreach. You connect via social media. A lot of times there's going to be a pitch form on the website or a contact email. Start there, but pitch them thoughtfully. I swear every week I get pitches that have the wrong name or the wrong box name, or clearly they haven't even looked us up. And it's just like, I'm not like, if they can't even have effort in their pitch, like they're not going to show up for my audience. So just make sure that you do a little bit of research and do some good outreach. Start at Crate Joy or ask your existing customers.
Such good advice. My wheels are already turning. I'm like,
I
ooh,
see them.
I'm going to go check out some subscription boxes, see if we can partner up. I love
Yes.
it. Such a great idea. Such a good idea. So, lastly, best piece of advice you've been given. It can be related to boxes, it can be related to just growing, scaling your business, work-life balance, whatever it is. Just what is something that like has just been truly impactful in your journey of entrepreneurship?
There's so many, but if I have to narrow it down to one, and I don't even know, like, it's an Aesop's fable, but I don't remember which fable it was, but I remember the moral of the story. You know how the Aesop's fables like illustrate a point at the end? There's like the moral of the story. The moral of this one was please all and you'll please none. And I'm like,
Mm,
oh, you can't be everything to everybody. And hone in on your niche, your ideal target audience, and know that there are going to be outliers, but don't change your business because one squeaky wheel had a complaint or whatever. You're not going to be able to please everybody. And I think when you accept that, then you will have less weight on your shoulders to be everything to everyone.
mm. So good. So good. Julie, this has been such a blast. Thank you, thank you, thank you for breaking it down. I now have my episode that I can say, here, just go listen to this. And that's what I
Nice.
wanted. Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, if you are interested in learning more about the subscription box industry and you're listening to a podcast, then you might like my podcast as well. It's called Subscription Box Basics with Julie Ball. It's on all the major podcast players. If you are more of the like, let's do this, like I'm ready to learn, then you can check me out at subscriptionboxbootcamp.com or Facebook and Instagram, same handle, Subscription Box Bootcamp.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was so fun as always. And I'm loving that you are podcasting now. Yay!
Yay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.